What's up guys, today I'm going to be showing you how I made this cool piano loop for artists like Polo G. It's a super ambient piano loop utilizing a vocal chop. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, feel free to drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Instagram at @GavinHadley_. And if you like the way this melody sounds or any of the other melodies that I've broken down so far, you can be added to my weekly melody list. It's $20 to be permanently added to the list. If you're interested, feel free to send me an email over to gavinhadleybeats@gmail.com and I can get you added to the list. And with all that out of the way, we can get into the video. So first things first, I'm going to play you guys the loop. I made this loop back in September, so it's been a while. That is the loop, super atmospheric sounding as you guys heard. That vocal chop is actually my girlfriend. She sent me a video of her singing and I went and I chopped it up and mashed it to this loop and I thought it turned out pretty cool. So let's get into the breakdown. So the very first thing I did was start out with this Labs piano. This is a super cool free plugin, Spitfire Labs. Look it up, download it, super cool piano. And this is the progression that I came up with. We're starting at E, going up to G sharp, F sharp, and then we have G sharp back up here again. I'm gonna like kind of reverse engineer the chords for you guys. So this chord was originally like this, just an E major triad. Put the B's down. This is just a really simple progression. So you guys can see their final, in their purest forms, these are the chords. Really simple, basic triads. Not trying to do too much, just really building up a lot of layers for this loop. Move into the next sound, which is just that same chord progression layered with the sound from Addictive Keys. And this last chord is a super interesting chord. I don't know exactly what it is. As you guys can see here, it's just a C sharp and a G sharp. I just really like the way it resolves. The key with this loop is just adding a bunch of different piano layers on top of each other. And while each one on their own isn't necessarily anything groundbreaking, again, super simple voicings, together they create a super unique pattern together. And that's kind of the thing with music. I find myself overcomplicating things lately, trying to come up with these elaborate chord progressions and stuff on guitar, but really it's all about layering and just adding a bunch of like simple elements together in a unique way. And I find that to be so much easier too than spending all this time to try to come up with just this groundbreaking chord progression. For that, we have an Omnisphere bass, the Growler Moog bass from Omnisphere, just following our root notes again. This piano, it's the Addicted piano from Bass One and Pilgrim's Black Magic one-shot kit. I'm just following the root notes here, as you guys can see. And then I am doing this simple arpeggio, utilizing chromatics right here just to give it a little bit more of a dark sound in these areas. So this is just a super simple arpeggio. I like to add a lot of these in my loops just to give it a little bit more movement. And you can put cool effects on them, get them a little bit more ambient sounding. And I forgot I have to break down all the effects for these two, so I'm gonna go in there and do that in a second for you guys. But these are just the fifth of this chord, or the so like this would be the triad, getting rid of that middle note basically. And I like in a lot of my loops to have just a repetitive element, and for me it's the B's right here, and then utilizing the chromatics again, and then going up to C sharp just for no reason. I just thought it sounded cool and switched it up a little bit. Now we have another Addictive Keys. I used this Addictive Keys to create a cool harmony sort of melody. So as you can see, we have these D sharps and this the B's, utilizing chromatics here as well. Here my goal was to find a couple of pairs of notes that I thought sounded good on top of each other. And here I just duplicated this pattern over, and then instead of going down, I went up, and then I used chromatics here again. This is a common note sequence that I use, just like in whatever key that I'm in. I like the way those notes sound when paired together like that. And then we're just working down the scale, utilizing chromatics here, just down an octave. And as you can see, it leads super well back up to the D sharp. One of the only tips that I will give with melodies is to create a cool call and response. For me here, the call, picture it kind of like a conversation, like you're talking to someone. And this is the first part. So this is the first part, the call, And then the second part is the response. For me, in my responses, I like to make sure I add closure, and these D sharps and the C sharps really does that for me. Basically, you can do almost whatever you want in the first part of the melody, but this in the second part of the response, you're gonna want to make sure you give it some space, let the melody breathe. Space is a super key component of making cool melodies, in my opinion. I feel like space is like one of the most important elements. You're just going to want to make sure you let the melody breathe. In the second half, just give it a sense of closure and completion. For me, when a melody has good completion, that right there up with spacing is just a super important aspect for me. Next, we have this sort of percussive tone element. This is what it sounds like. Again, it's another arpeggio following the root notes, and then we just have this super simple G sharp minor triad stacked on top that plays the entire time. This was a super nice tone. When I picked this sound, I was looking for something with a little bit more of a percussive element to it. As you guys can hear, it does have some tone to it, but there is sort of that percussive sound as well. And that was a super good sound because all of the sounds I've used so far were pianos, and this was a good way to sort of break that up a little bit and give the melody a little bit more texture. We have this conventional guitar, just a fake guitar. I added a bunch of different effects on it, and we're sort of working our way up the scale here. See, I'll play it with this. Yeah, so cascading up the scale in a super simple way is a very useful tool to create a sense of emotion. When I cascade up the scale, I like to use chromatics again. These guys, a really prevalent example of this is Driver's License by Olivia Rodrigo. You guys will definitely hear a similar sort of cascading up the scale like that in that song. After that, I just used that vocal chop that I talked about earlier, chopped it up a little bit, nothing too crazy. This is what it sounds like. I had to pitch it up too, so it matched the key of the melody. And then I also have sections where I pitched that sample that's pitched up to, I pitched it down an octave. For me, that just created like a cool sort of sample, old school, maybe like Drake, just, you guys know what I mean. Starting with the Labs piano, this is a preset that I use all the time. You guys see it in almost all my videos. We have a Guitar Rig 5, just giving it a little bit of distortion to add texture. And then to ease up the distortion, we use a Valhalla. Just on its normal settings, we just turn the mix down a little bit. And the key with this, I like to put my reverbs before my amps, so the reverb sound gets a little bit more texture from the amp itself. And then just to fill up even more space, I have a delay too with these settings. For the Addictive Keys, all I have on it is RC20, super simple Vinyl 1 preset with the distortion a little bit wobble, a little bit of noise, and the width turned over to the left to make it a little bit more mono. The Addicted piano, I use Crystallizer, Muffled Up Octave, Echo Boy, with the Dirty Slap preset. It gives it a lot of texture. And then I use the Fruity Delay 3 on the default preset, just with the mix turned back a lot. On my arpeggios like this, I like to add a lot of delay to them as well. It gives it even more depth, and it just accentuates the arpeggio a little bit, and I just think it gives it a really cool sound. For the harmony top melody, we just have this sort of chain. This is what everything sounds like without effects. And then we added this chain, just getting out some low end that we don't really need, and then taking out some of the high end and then boosting this frequency right here just to give it a little bit more texture. It doesn't really add much of a change, as you guys can hear. It's mainly sort of like drowned out the reverb a little bit more. This is the reverb, just default Valhalla, mix up the decay on 4 seconds. Literally didn't change anything about that. Yes, so now for the Leaf's percussive sound, we have an EQ here. This is what everything sounds like before effects. It's like a classic one-shot mallet sound, and I wanted to change that a little bit, so I actually allowed bits. So I have this effect chain on it right here. Just getting rid of all these high frequencies and low frequencies and just really muffling it. After that, we have a Fruity Delay 3 to give it a little bit more body. Default preset again, just with the mix knob turned back. So that gives it a lot more presence, but then it was still kind of quiet and narrow, so I used an Ozone 8 Elements to widen it. Just gives it a little bit more presence in both ears. And then for this guitar, this is probably my favorite effects that I put on this entire loop. So I actually reversed this guitar sound. Super cool technique you guys can use with one-shots. This is its normal form, like this. What you're gonna wanna do is press reverse, and as you can see, there's a little bit too much of a tail, so you can just bring back this length knob, so like it starts reversing right away and there isn't like a delay or anything. These are the effects that I have on that. The Garage Door preset from Echo Boy gives it a cool distortion. We have a Fruity Parametric EQ, classic, just same technique as I was using before, a Valhalla. with default presets as well, and then an altar boy with the pitch turned up an octave, and that just gives it a cool sort of distorted up an octave sound. And what everything sounds like before this, and then After Effects. For the vocal itself, there's just a little reverb on it before as well, but with the EQ I was just taking out some harsh frequencies right here, the delay, just to give it a little bit more presence when it wasn't actually playing. And then we have an ozonate elements just to widen it and again give it a little bit more body and presence. That's the entire sample. Hope you guys were able to learn something in today's video. As always, feel free to drop a like, subscribe to the channel, comment down below what type of videos you guys would like to see from me next. Thank you for watching. Have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.